Hello and welcome to the next part of Rules and Regulations for Dental Practice in India. Today, I will be covering a very important point, that is on Clinical Establishment Act. Clinical Establishment Act was established in 2010. This is the website of Clinical Establishment Registration and Regulation Act by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. So what is Clinical Establishment Act? Clinical Establishment Act provides for registration and regulation of clinical establishments in the country with a view to prescribe basic standards of facilities and services of a particular type being provided by the clinical establishment. So what happened was the government decided that we have to have some standard for care which has to be among all clinics and all clinical establishments, nursing homes, hospitals, etc. all over the country. So this act came into being. So are there any specific clinical establishments which are outside the purview of the act? Clinical establishments which are covered and controlled and managed by armed forces are not covered under this act. All those categories of clinical establishments which are exempted by the state government and clinical establishments which are located in states and union territories mentioned in the schedule to the act, unless these states and union territories repeal their existing act and adopt Clinical Establishment Act. So what this means is there are certain states and union territories which have their own act, their own Clinical Establishment Act. So those states and union territories will follow the state specific clinical establishment law. All the others who have adopted this law which was given by the center will follow Clinical Establishment Act. So does this law apply to the entire country? No. This act came into force in the states of Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Mizoram, Himachal Pradesh and all union territories, that is Andaman and Nicobar, Chandigarh, Dadra Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu, Lakshadweep and Puducherry, except Delhi from 1st March 2012. The states of UP, Bihar, Rajasthan, Jharkhand and Uttarakhand have adopted the act by passing the resolution in their specific state assemblies. All clinical establishments in the above mentioned states and union territories will have to register under this act. So these states, that is UP, Bihar, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Uttarakhand and union territories as well as the states mentioned above, these states follow Clinical Establishment Act. So this was a summary in 2017, that is states in which CEA 2010 has become applicable, that is states of Himachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim, because of the resolution passed in their assembly accepting the central regulation, and 6 union territories. Second, like I said, that is Assam, Bihar, Jharkhand, UP, Uttarakhand and Rajasthan, they adopted the same act in their state assembly. States and union territories which have their own act include West Bengal, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Delhi, Manipur, Nagaland, Madhya Pradesh and Punjab. So these states had their own act, so they have not established the Clinical Establishment Act given by the center. Other states which have enacted their own act are Chhattisgarh, Haryana, Jammu Kashmir, Meghalaya, Tamil Nadu and Tripura. Now the remaining states which have not adopted the act in 2010 but were in the process of enacting their law was Gujarat, Kerala and Goa. But this particular summary was given in March 2017. After this, there have been some changes. That is, Goa state has enacted Goa Clinical Establishment Act in 2019. Kerala enacted Kerala Clinical Establishment Act in 2018. And Gujarat enacted Gujarat Clinical Establishment Act in 2021. So all the states and union territories now are covered, some by the Central Clinical Establishment Act and some by individual state acts. So if this act is not applicable to my state, do I need to register? The answer is no. If it is not applicable to your state, then you have to not register in this, but you will have some state Clinical Establishment Act where you will have to register. Who is responsible for registering in a clinical establishment? The owner of the clinical establishment, that is owner of practices, are responsible for registering in this act. Who is the registering authority? Where do you register? A multi-member authority at district level called District Registering Authority is the registering authority for clinical establishment. What are the conditions for registration of a clinical establishment? Now, these points are important. They are just a purview, but to see it in detail, you will have to go to the website. Minimal standards of facilities and services as prescribed under the Act have to be followed. Then the minimum requirements of personnel may be prescribed. That is, how many people are needed to run a particular setup may be prescribed in the Act. Provision for record maintenance, how to maintain your records, how to report your records, that will also be prescribed. The clinical establishment will undertake to provide within the staff and facilities the medical examination and treatment that may be required to stabilize emergency medical condition who comes or who is brought. So if there is an emergency which comes to your clinic, you are honor bound to take care of such patients. Other conditions are you have to display your registration certificate, you have to display your rates for each type of services. The charge of the rates will be according to the rates which are determined by central government with consultation with the state governments. So those were some basic points of the Clinical Establishment Act. The details are given in the website. So there are two types of registrations, provisional and permanent. Provisional registration is provided on as is, where is basis. It is granted within 10 days of application. Once I receive a provisional certificate, what is the validity? So the validity is 1 year. After 1 year, you will have to, if you're not yet got permanent registration, you will have to renew your provisional registration again. When will permanent registration be undertaken? Permanent registration will commence after minimum standards are notified. Clinical establishments are given sufficient time as per guidelines of the Act to prepare themselves to meet the minimum standards. So the state has to notify you about the minimum standards. After that notification, then you will be given time as per the guidelines to meet those standards, and then you will get permanent registration. Till then, you have to reapply for provisional after 1 year is over. Is there a penalty for not registering a clinical establishment under this Act? Yes, a monetary penalty is imposed. In case a clinical establishment is run without registration, the first contravention up to 10,000, second contravention up to 50,000, any subsequent contravention, you might get a fine of 5 lakhs. If a clinical establishment fails to pay the fine imposed, it will be recovered as an arrear of land revenue. The clinical establishment may be shut down by the district administration, and all orders of registering authority will be appealable. So that was about Clinical Establishment Act. Now these are my contact details, my WhatsApp number, my email ID. In case of any queries or in case you want any help regarding accreditation or any legal requirements, kindly contact me. If you like this video and you would like more such contents, please do not forget to share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much, and please look out for the last video on this series on legal requirements for dental practices. Thank you very much.